I've matriculated over to my palatial lounge.
It really does look like, yeah, you're welcoming someone into a lounge there.
Welcome to the football lounge. And here in the football lounge, we talk a little bit of college football every Thursday with our college football burning questions. Big week of college football ahead. Where are we starting, Miss Pickle?
Up first, let's go with SMU at Memphis, 11 a.m. on Saturday. Is this a potential letdown game for SMU?
Yeah, I think it absolutely is, and here's why. Before the season, if you had asked me to locate what were the biggest games on SMU's schedule, I would most certainly have circled SMU at Memphis. They
probably before SMU at Houston.
Absolutely, and they've played some wars. The Liberty Bowl has not been kind to SMU historically, and coming off of their first loss of the year, I think you always wonder how a team is going to react, right? How a team is going to bounce back. Now, I think SMU is the better team. Memphis has struggled, most especially Memphis has struggled defensively. Their offense has been up and down a little bit. We don't know what their quarterback situation is like. Seth Hennigan didn't play last week, and so we don't know if he's going to be starting this week. Their quarterback's a little bit in flux. SMU's the better team. On paper, SMU should win. This is a game between the ears, and that's why I think that the question of the letdown game is important, because I think in a vacuum, you would take SMU over Memphis. But going on the road after such a heartbreaking loss last week, I'll throw it out there. After not being ranked in the college football playoff rankings, I think that's a bummer. And so can they kind of bounce back and make sure they don't let one loss beat them twice?
Well, and I think you've also got to worry about them. They can't be looking too far forward and marking this off as like, oh, you know what, we can beat Memphis, and then the hard part starts. Like you can't look forward.
Exactly. This is an important game for SMU to bounce back. What's next, Pickle?
Up next, let's head over to Conference USA. North Texas taking on Southern Miss at 2 p.m. in Hattiesburg. Buy or sell, the North Texas defense has taken a step forward. They're actually favored by 5 on the road, which is astonishing.
So last week, of course, the defense wasn't an abject failure. But I think that was more about what Rice didn't do than what North Texas did do.
Absolutely.
Wiley Green got hurt in that game. Not that he was everything, but he got hurt. The Rice offense has been pretty ho-hum all year long, and the North Texas defense was able to look probably as good as they've looked all year last week. I'm selling this. I don't buy it. I think that the defense still has major flaws, most notably in the linebacker core and in the secondary, and that's where I worry about this game. Now, Southern Miss is objectively, but
absolutely,
they are very bad. They're very, very bad, and so this would be the kind of thing, even on the road, for them to lose this game, and especially to get lit up by an offense that has been very, very mediocre, very pedestrian, that would signal to me a big, big problem. There's already big problems in North Texas. I think they're probably going to have a coaching change, but this is the kind of game that one of the last ones on the schedule that you got to make sure you get.
I was going to say, you found a way to squeak it out against Rice. It's like, okay, do that again against Southern Miss, because the schedule doesn't get easier as it goes on here.
Ugly as it may be, go out there and get a win over a bad Golden Eagles team. What's next, Pickle?
Up next, let's head over to the Fun Belt. Louisiana Monroe at Texas State, 2 p.m. on Saturday. Is this Texas State's last best chance to win a game in 2021?
So the easy answer is yes. They've still got to play Coastal Carolina, and they've still got to, which is not going to be fun, even though they've taken a loss, and they've still got to play Georgia Southern and Arkansas State. They're going to be underdogs in every one of those games, right? But I also think that this is an opportunity for them to get to right the ship, to feel good, especially coming home against a bad Louisiana Monroe team. This is a Louisiana Monroe team that is better than people thought they would be, but that is damning with faint praise.
Right.
They need to go out there and get a win in this one. This is, in my mind, this is the easiest game left on the schedule.
Yeah.
And so they need to make sure they go out there, especially at home, and get a victory. Look, we've already talked about how last week felt like rock bottom when they got absolutely blasted by Louisiana. Can you bounce back coming home against Monroe? That would be at least a step in the right direction. I don't have high expectations for Texas State.
No.
And this feels like it could be like the nail in the coffin if they were to lose this game. But this is certainly, as far as the question is concerned, this is definitely the last best chance to win a game. What's next?
Up next, let's head to our small school game of the week. Number 6, Southeastern Louisiana at Incarnate Word, 2 p.m. again on Saturday. What is the key for UIW to spring an upset?
So, I think you've just got to get some magic from your magic man, and Cam Ward. He, of course, was the Jerry Rice Award winner last year for the Freshman of the Year in the FCS ranks, but he's going up against the guy who won the Walter Payton Award last year, in Cole Kelly, the quarterback for Southeastern Louisiana. This is one of those things that I think Incarnate Word is a team under Eric Morris that is we know exactly what they are, which is we want to go out there and score a bunch of points, and they've been able to do that. So get Southeastern Louisiana into your game. Just dare them into a shootout and see if you can get a couple plays down the stretch. Win the turnover battle by like 2 and score every time you got the ball. I think that's what they got to do. Go in there and get a shootout win. That would be a huge, huge victory. Probably a program-defining victory for Incarnate Word.
Especially at home.
And get that one. Yeah, I think it's a huge matchup there for Incarnate Word. Here's hoping the Cardinals can pull out the victory. What's next, Pickle?
Up next, let's head on over to the Big 12. Number 12, Baylor, a 6.5-point favorite over TCU, 2:30 p.m. on Saturday. That one happening at the Carter. What is a reasonable expectation for TCU the rest of the season? And does 6.5 seem a little low to you?
It does, and I think that the reason why is, first of all, I think Vegas still has some questions about Baylor. I don't necessarily have some questions about Baylor, but I think Vegas does.
Yeah.
I think they also look at a TCU team that may be playing a little bit inspired, right?
Yeah.
With we call it the dead cat bounce, right? Where it's like, you lose your coach and maybe things can resurface. We don't know the status of Zach Evans, if he's going to play in this game. That would certainly benefit them. Although, certainly Baylor didn't have trouble slowing down Bijan Robinson last week. 6.5 does seem low. I'll tell you this. I think a reasonable expectation under Jerry Kill is just to, they've still got to get into Kansas. You got to win that game, right?
And then you've got to be competitive.
And then just be competitive. Be competitive. See if you can surprise somebody. You want to talk about a really nice bounce back. If they were able to knock off Baylor, that would certainly heal a lot of wounds, and you would feel really good about getting into a playoff situation. Getting into the playoffs. Not playoffs. The playoffs. Think about getting into the
Big 12 championship.
into the bowl game.
Oh, gotcha.
If they're able to do that, I don't see it happening. I think that, for TCU, don't crater. I think that's really the thing, because we are in uncharted territory. We do not know how modern SMU or modern TCU operates without Gary Patterson at the helm. We're literally going to find out together Saturday afternoon in Fort Worth.
This would be a big morale booster for Horned Frog fans as well. Like, that the administration at TCU is going, okay, we made this monumental shift in coaching, and it's like, if you can go out there against their number one rival and pull in a win when they're ranked 12th, that helps the administration take a big, deep breath.
That'd be huge. What's next, Pickle?
Up next, let's get some SEC action in here. Number 13, Auburn, taking on number 14, Texas A&M. They're a 4.5-point favorite, 2:30 p.m. on Saturday. And the question comes from the quarterback position. Who plays better on Saturday, Zach Calzada or Bo Nix?
This is fascinating, because I think both of these quarterbacks are kind of famously super hot and cold.
Yeah. Like,
both these quarterbacks, when they play well, are amazing. Go look at what Zach Calzada did against Alabama. Go look at what Bo Nix has done over the course of his career at times there at Auburn. He has been electrifying. He's been like one of the best players in the SEC. But also, both these teams have had a history of, both these quarterbacks have had a history of inconsistency. And so, who is able to come out and have the better game on Saturday? I'm going to go with Calzada simply because he's at home. But at the same time, as I've kind of made clear, I have not been super impressed with him basically outside of the Alabama game. I think he played the greatest game he may ever play against the number one team in the nation. And since then, he's been kind of average, struggling a little bit. Bo Nix runs super hot and cold too.
Yeah.
And if A&M faces good Bo Nix, they can absolutely lose this game, and he can absolutely run roughshod over them. But if they face bad Bo Nix, they might shut him out. That's what's so interesting about this game is you have two high variance quarterbacks.
It could be a banger or it could be a dud. It's
right.
Very
if both of them show up, if both of them show up, it could be incredible. If neither of them show up, it could be incredible.
It's going to be 7-10.
If one of them shows up, then it could be a blowout.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So there's a lot of which ways this thing could go. 4.5 feels right.
So what you're saying is, I don't know.
I don't know, man. I'll go with Calzada simply because I'm a state of Texas homer. But this game feels way up in the air. I have almost no read on it. What's next, Pickle?
Up next, back to Conference USA, we go Rice at Charlotte. They're a 6-point favorite, 2:30 p.m. on Saturday. And here we go, an over-under for you. 325.5 total yards for Rice. And yikes, this Does that seem? Am I the only one who thinks that seems real rich?
It's a little rich. I'm going to take the under in this one. Charlotte's defense is not amazing, but
No.
they're decent. And the problem
I don't
is,
think Rice can just
the problem
push
is,
enough.
I think it's a problem with Rice on the road. I just don't know if they're going to be able to go out there. Now, admittedly, their best offensive output of the year, non-Texas Southern Division, is when they went to UAB. But Wiley Green played in that game, and we don't know the status of Wiley Green going forward. If they turn to Jake Constantine, he looked good against Texas Southern, but basically since then, he hasn't looked all that great. I'm going to go with the under in this one. I think part of the reason, and what's really, what we haven't really talked enough about is the fact that Rice has not been able to run the ball effectively, which has always been what Mike Bloomgren wants to do there. I'm going to take the under in this one. I think that Charlotte's able to hold them down. I think they're able to get a 2-touchdown win.
That is a really good point. Like last year, you think they went on the road and beat number 25 Marshall, and then this year they go beat UAB. They've got this weird long road trip voodoo magic about it.
It's a weird thing. What's next, Pickle?
Up next, back to the Big 12. Texas at Iowa State, 6.5-point favorite there at home, 6:30 p.m. on Saturday. Texas are at a 4-4 record. Is this season already a failure for the Longhorns?
No. And I don't know. There's been a lot of doom and gloom among Texas fans about the season, and I'm just like, it's a first-year head coach. Like, for some reason, I just don't understand why every other first-year head coach gets it's a first-year head coach treatment, but the coach at Texas, or most notably Steve Sarkisian, doesn't.
I think it's because they can't finish. Like, you see the greatness in the first half, and then, like, where does it go?
But let me ask you a question, though. Isn't that indicative of a culture issue?
Absolutely. I completely agree with that.
And culture doesn't change overnight. I think they can absolutely still go 8-4. They've still the rest of their games are against Kansas. Is that right? Kansas? Who's the rest of their schedule? Pull their schedule. I know they've got Iowa State this week. This is a winnable game. But coming into the season, now Ames has not been super kind to them, but coming into the season, I would have marked this maybe as an instant loss. This is an Iowa State team that I think is struggling a little bit, especially that defense. People kind of figured out how to go around the Matt Campbell defense a little bit, and that's a little bit troubling, I think, if you're a Texas fan going in, or if you're an Iowa State fan. This is a winnable game for Texas to go on the road to Iowa State.
And then the rest of your games are winnable. I mean, you've got at home against Kansas.
Win.
You have to win that. On the road against West Virginia. They
always
win that struggle a little bit there, but there's no reason.
Texas is better than West Virginia.
And then home against Kansas State, which there's their biggest blessing because they go to Kansas State, and it's just
that's a house of horrors. Yeah.
Yeah.
8-4 is really within reach, and I think if you were before the season, if you had said Texas is going to go 8-4, I would have been like, okay, yeah, that sounds about right.
Sure.
I think that maybe people overcooked expectations a little bit, and I understand it, like, because it's Texas, but I don't know. I don't necessarily consider the season a failure. If they lose to Iowa State, let's have this conversation again.
Yeah.
But I would say that for now, we can't declare it a failure yet. I will say that much. What's next, Pickle?
Up next, Houston, a 13-point favorite over South Florida on the road, 6:30 p.m. The Cougs offense ranks 71st in EPA play. Is that a concern?
So EPA per play is kind of an advanced stat where basically they measure your expected points added per play, right? So how many, every play has if you're going from the 1 yard line, right, then your expected points added is going to be a little bit higher than if you're going from your own 1 yard line, right? So it takes into account all things as far as game situation, where you are on the field position, time, et cetera, and Houston's offense has been below average, right? They've been below average as far as that metric is concerned. It hasn't mattered because their defense has made big splash plays. You saw it almost rear its ugly head late in that game last week against SMU, where the offense came out hot and then it just kind of fizzled. It shouldn't matter this week against South Florida. South Florida's bad. This is not the South Florida team of 2014. This is a bad South Florida team. It shouldn't matter. But going forward, if they want to, and it honestly shouldn't matter the rest of the regular season. They're going to be big favorites in the rest of their games in the regular season. If they have the dreams of knocking off Cincinnati in the American Athletic Conference Championship game, they got to fix that. The offense is going to have to get into gear because their defense is not going to be enough to save them there. For now, short term, no, not a problem. Probably behooves them to figure it out before their big game, presumably against Cincinnati, presumably in the American Athletic Championship game. And finally, Pickle.
Finally, the game of the year as the undefeated UTSA Roadrunners take on the UTEP Miners. 9:15 p.m. on Saturday on ESPN2. Make a play against the spread. It's set at 11. Roadrunners in favor over the Miners at home.
Disrespectful to the Miners. Disrespectful to the home-standing Miners. I'm so excited that this game is this week.
Oh, yeah.
Who would have thought that UTSA and UTEP would be a massive game this year? It's so much fun.
Mike Craven will be there.
Yeah. The UTEP is going to come out with a lot of you-know-what and vinegar in this game. They're going to come out hot, I feel like. And they're going to come out looking to make a statement. This is on this. They don't have a lot of games that are nationally televised like this. ESPN Plus doesn't count. That are nationally televised like this. I think this is a big opportunity for UTEP, and I think they know that. I also think that they are going to have to get something going offensively in any sort of meaningful way if they're going to get this win. And I'm not sure I see that against UTSA. I think UTSA is going to be able to run away from them and win this game. I think Frank Harris and Sincere McCormick have big games. I think Zachary Franklin has a big game. I'm going to take UTSA minus 11. I like UTSA by about 2 touchdowns in this one. First quarter could get interesting, especially if UTEP can come out here and just throw a big punch. But their defense is so reliant on being like in the plus territory in the turnover margin, and UTSA tends to take care of the football. I think that's a bad mix. I like UTSA minus 11. I think it's going to be a fun atmosphere. I hope there's a ton of people at the Sun Bowl, but I do like the Roadrunners minus 11. So there you go. That is our college football burning questions.
Hey, thanks for watching this clip here on YouTube. If you like this kind of stuff and you want more of it, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. And remember, you can watch us live every weekday at noon at texasfootball.com, Facebook, Twitch, or here on YouTube. And if you want more of the best coverage of football in the state of Texas, check out texasfootball.com and become a Dave Campbell's Texas Football Insider at texasfootball.com/subscribe.